Hi, everybody. So I'm so happy to bring you this interview with one of my former clients. Her name is Jerika, and today we're going to discuss her story, the background she comes from. We're going to go through her recovery, like what was her struggles, and also we're going to discuss like where she is today. Because I know like sharing these interviews, I'm sure will be inspiring for many people and also give them motivation for their recovery as well. So Jerika, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, hi, Elisa. Long time no see.
Yeah, so can you please briefly introduce yourself to the viewers and also talk about the background you come from?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerika Ejercito. I'm a wife. I'm a mom of four boys and another one on the way. I'm from the Philippines. I come from a background of politicians and actors, movie actors. So it's safe to say that I'm very familiar with living my life in the public eye. My father was an actor and my mom was an actress, and my dad became a politician later on in life. So it was a very high profile. At one point, it was a very high profile. We were a very high profile family, and with that comes a lot of you know people prying into your life. Um, and once you're in the public eye, you open up yourself to a lot of public scrutiny. Not everyone will love you, of course. And I learned that the hard way. I was very, very young when my father became the president of the Philippines. This was 1998. So I was around 13 years old. So at that young age, I was exposed to a lot of, criticisms, bullying from people I don't even know. So I think that really made me very, very self-critical and insecure. I was not always sure of myself because I was always mindful of what people might say about me. And I think that was very critical because I was in my early teens when this happened. And so I think that really fueled a lot of my uh, eating disorders, so to speak. Now I'm in my late 30s. I'm about to be a mother of five, and it's been a long journey. And I'm just glad that I met Elisa on the way.
Like my story is similar in a way that like in the teenage years and I guess like that time like being so vulnerable to the like wanting to be accepted and kind of like finding your way like where you belong and and everything, and also like at that time your body is changing and developing and it's like a so new and that was like a big trigger for me and everything. So yeah, I think like many people relate to that like at a young age, like when it starts.
Absolutely. I think it's like I said, being, in the public eye. Well, I wasn't super exposed, but of course my family is so well known that, you cannot avoid it. You cannot avoid it. And at that time, I think it wasn't even as bad as now because internet was not so big at that time, but you still get it. And at that tender age with your puberty hits and your body starts to change and everything is just a mess, and people, and I think it's also a cultural thing, like what I keep telling you about, that when you're in family gatherings, the first thing people would notice is it's either you gained or if you lost weight. It's always about your appearance.
And yeah, and especially being like so vulnerable and being like at a public eye, like I can't even imagine like having like that pressure and not knowing like how to deal with it. I guess like even grown-ups don't know how to deal with that pressure, like let alone like a young child. So yeah, so this is how your eating disorder started as well, right? Like do you remember like first like the behaviors or exactly like how it started? Or
I think it was very subtle, very, very subtle. I didn't even, there's no particular moment that I remember, but it's just, the constant comment about, oh, you've gained a little bit of weight. Oh, you lost weight. You look so good. It's those little moments that accumulates. And as a child, you're like, oh, if I lose weight, they think I look good. Or when I gain weight, I'm not so good. You know what I mean? And and we're bombarded with with the standard beauty, like on TV, on billboards and whatnot. So you tend to want to emulate what you see on TV, Western TV. Growing up, there was Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Paris Hilton. I mean, those were the people that I was like, wow, I want to be like them, I want to look like them. And being Asian and being petite, that's not how my body is built. Like, I'm not, I'm not Caucasian, I'm not tall, and I'm not naturally skinny, but you're being brainwashed by all of these things around you, and you just want to look like these women, these gorgeous women, not knowing that not everyone can look the same at that time, of course. So I was around 15 when I started working out and taking fat burners, because those over the counter. So that's when it started. So that's where I started. I started taking fat burners. I learned about bulimia through girlfriends, through school. Hey, you don't want to gain weight, let's eat, but you can do this afterwards. So I developed bulimia around high school. That carried on until maybe I was in my mid 20s. But at that time, I was full blown, like, binge eating and then starving myself and working out for 2 hours. And, it just became a vicious cycle. The whole goal for around that time for the next 10 years of my life was to just be skinny, regardless of what it took. Even if I didn't feel well, even if I felt like I was about to faint, as long as I was skinny, I'm good. Doesn't matter how I felt inside. It was all about how I looked. So I think that's when it just spiraled out of control.
And can you share more about your experience, like living with an eating disorder, and how did it affect your life and your health and your well-being, like overall?
Like I said, I was so consumed about my weight because I felt like my worth was anchored on how I looked or how skinny I was. I would get, I would be in magazine covers when I was skinny. I would get a lot of compliments, be invited to a lot of social events, and you wear all these amazing gowns. And, so at the time when you're not so secured with your identity and you don't know who you are and you don't have those moral values that you hold dear, you're anchored. Your identity is anchored on that, on those superficial things, unfortunately. So like I said, everything I did was just for me to remain skinny and be skinny. That was the end all and be all. And if I gained weight, it was the end of the world. And when I would binge eat because I would starve myself, it was such a, I felt like I could kill myself. I reached that point where I cannot live like this, because the moment I see the scale tip over like maybe 5 pounds, 6 pounds, that was it. I was not going out of the house. I was starving myself. I would, purge myself days, days upon days. So it was very toxic. I was so consumed with how I looked. There was nothing else. I didn't notice anything else in my life anymore.
And what did you think about all of this? Like, did you blame yourself, or did you get some help, or?
I did get help. I got help. I had a psychiatrist, I had therapists, but that only took care of a part of it. Like, I was suffering from depression, PTSD. Of course, I dealt with some of my childhood trauma. And after 2 years, I felt like I was okay. And then I got pregnant. So that was another, that hit me hard because I was so excited to be a mom. I was 28. I was super skinny. I was excited to be a mom. But when the weight started to come in, I was going nuts. So my first pregnancy, I think, was one of the hardest things I ever went through, because 50% of the time I was super happy and excited, but the other 50% of the time I was miserable. I was hating my body. I was trying to resist, gaining weight, but I couldn't because it's healthy to gain weight when you're pregnant. You know what I mean? So after I had my first child, that's when everything just became full blown. I went back to being bulimic. I started, starving myself. And I've been pregnant. This is my fourth pregnancy. So the first, the second, and the third were the same. It's every time I give birth, I end up going back to my old habits, because I just felt so uncomfortable in a bigger body and I didn't understand why. I addressed the trauma issues, depression and PTSD, but I never really realized that I had an eating disorder. You know what It's never discussed in this country, you know. In fact, you are even encouraged. You're encouraged to lose weight after you give birth. You're encouraged to do fasting. You're encouraged to do keto diet. You're encouraged to do all of these things. So even my therapist would encourage me to lose weight after I give birth. But I think after the third pregnancy, it just felt so unnatural, and I felt like there has to be another way to live this life. I didn't want to be restricted and confined in this mentality anymore. I think I just reached a limit where I needed a breakthrough. And I think that's when I started searching, and that's when, and then I realized that, my gosh, I have an eating disorder and I never knew. I never knew because it's so normalized in this country. Everyone is, oh yeah, you go fast, 60 hours, 80 hours, and don't eat carbs, never eat sugar. It's so normal in this country.
And would you say that like when you got help with your, like for example, therapist, then the problem with the eating disorder and the extreme restriction was never kind of discussed? And this
No,
is why you were stuck for so many
no,
years.
because of course the other things, okay, I had other childhood trauma that were addressed, which was great. I was able to heal from that. But this particular part of my life, I had no idea that it was a problem in itself because it is so normalized. Like I told you, even my therapist was encouraging me to do all these diets and, stop eating rice and, exercise and all these stuff. So I just had no idea that it was a problem. But I knew that something was not right, that it's not natural.
So can you share about like what was your turning point when you realized that you had an eating disorder and you have to get help?
Um, I guess you can say it was around the time before I got pregnant with this baby right now. When the pandemic started, um, and you couldn't work out, and I started gaining a bit of weight, gaining what I had lost after my third pregnancy. And I was starting to revert back to a lot of unhealthy thought cycles. But I think it was really, there was something inside of me that was fighting it already. Like I knew that it was unnatural, that I had to find another way to live this life. I didn't want to be bound by what I was eating, because it's been my whole entire life. It's been almost 20 years of my life that I've been, a slave to food, slave to my weight. So I think I just started asking the right questions, searching for answers. I've never heard of intuitive eating before, but I think I started searching for learning about eating disorders. That's where it all began, because previously I was very into, mental health thing, all of this, mental disorders, but I never knew about eating disorders. So I was like, okay, this is interesting because those things really, I like learning things. So when I started reading it and learning about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have an eating disorder. I think this is me. I think this is the last piece of the puzzle in my healing process. So that's when it happened. During the pandemic, I started searching, I started asking questions, and I started learning about eating disorders. I discovered about eating disorders. And, a few months later, it led me to intuitive eating and all of this stuff.
Yeah, so do you actually remember like how you stumbled upon me, or what were your initial thoughts about the recovery, and were you like freaked out or?
I think I started following a lot of intuitive eating um Instagram pages. Of course, naturally, that's what you do when you're trying to learn about something. I started I followed you. I followed a lot of accounts, and I just you know wanted to consume as much information as I can. And I started contacting a lot of therapists. You were actually the fourth therapist that I decided to get in touch with. So I did a lot of pre-interviews and all that stuff. And then I met you, and when I had that first talk with you, I was like, I think I found my therapist. So, and I read about your book. I ordered your book while before we even started our session. So I kind of knew some of your work. So I was very intrigued, and I kind of trusted your process.
And now here we are, right?
Yeah.
Like so many months later, and in such a better place and everything. But first, when we start talking about that, like, can we go back to like your recovery started, like we started the coaching. So like, how was the recovery like for you?
I was excited. I felt like finally I'm dealing with this monster in my life that I didn't even know existed. Because, like I said, I cannot stress it enough. It is so normalized here. You are applauded by starving yourself and going on diet. So it just felt like I'm going against the grain, but in a good way. It felt like I was finally fighting to have the life that I want. So, but of course, it was in the beginning. I was very nervous. I was very nervous, especially the part where I had to stop exercising, and that was a bit, that was really hard. But I was excited. I was excited to be able to eat all of the foods that I wanted, without feeling the guilt. But that took a while. I was very excited. I was very excited to start the recovery process for sure.
And do you remember like anything particular that like were your struggles or?
Yeah, absolutely. It was more of body image issues. I remember we had to do a lot of exercises about reframing negative thoughts, because that's where it all starts. I feel like I live inside my head most of the time. And it was very helpful for me to have a lot of exercises where we really, you know, go through every single thought process and reframe it. And so that was very helpful. And the thing that really left an impact with me, well, a few things, but one of the things was when I had to give my 4-year-old photo, when I had to talk to my 4-year-old self, and just remembering this little girl and telling her that everything is okay. So it was very personal. That for me was very personal, and it left a huge impact. And I still do it sometimes. I still talk to my 4-year-old self sometimes when things are, because it's not, I mean, this recovery is not, it's an ongoing process. Sometimes I have days, and sometimes I still have my bad days.
And what do you remember about them? Like, for example, so many people are scared to like give in to their full hunger, and they think like they will never stop eating. So how do you remember that process, and like how was it in the beginning, and kind of like the how it normalized over time?
I think I remember saying, I remember telling you that, you know what, this is the perfect time to do this recovery, because if and when I gain weight, it's okay. No one's gonna see me because it's a pandemic. And and then I was given this project where I needed to be on camera. I remember, and I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna see me, and this is the first time they're gonna see me, and I've gained so much weight. Um, I think it was really when you taught me about the body image issues, you know, and what is my business and what is their business and all that stuff. Um, me me being able to eat whatever I wanted at the time was something that I really had to get used to in the beginning. I remember there was this one time when I went to dinner with my brothers, and a comment was made, and it brought me to tears, and I had to, like, we need an emergency session, and I need to go through this with you, because you know, you really need a good support system, I think, when you're recovering. You need to inform your family members or whoever is the closest to you, because I feel like it's important that they are in this uh, journey with you. You know what I mean? Because they can be triggers.
And in recovery, I think it's actually like very healthy to go through the your current life as we are doing the coaching and recovering and everything, because like this sets you up like being able to maintain then recovery in the real world as well, like even after the sessions and everything. And like we can't be fully recovered in our own bubble. Like we have to be able to face those triggers and moments, or kind of like
Yeah,
the feeling exposed or vulnerable and still being fully recovered, and like learn how to navigate through those like difficult times, because I feel like those like triggers or moments, they only make you stronger in your recovery. So it was actually very good that you
it,
had those moments, and then we were able to like together discuss it and how to get stronger and
yeah,
move forward.
practice what I have learned. You know, even when I was offered that project, and I was intensely nervous for the first interview that I was gonna do, but you know, I was able to practice everything. I was able to practice everything on the spot, reframing my thoughts on the spot, accepting all the emotions that I was feeling, not suppressing it, not rejecting it, and just letting it, just feeling it and letting it pass through. I think that was one of the most useful technique that I have learned through recovery, that you know, feelings are feelings, whether it's good or bad. You just feel it, let it pass, acknowledge it, and you know, don't deny it. I think that was one of the most powerful things that tools that I have learned from you.
Yeah, I also remember like for you the like realizing that actually I don't need to suppress my feelings or use some unhealthy behavior to like suppress it down or to cope with it. I can actually like just be with it and realize that nothing bad happens, and it's almost like that is like a so much like less stressful, even though like the emotions can feel stressful, but the result of it is so much less stressful, and yeah, it makes you stronger again.
Fight it, that's when I become anxious. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So very, that's a powerful tool for me even till this day.
We did a lot of work with your like body image and the thoughts and the feelings and like so many levels, and I just want the viewers also to realize that the like even though like the baseline is that we have to eat enough and give our body rest and everything, like the physical part is so important. It's like the foundation, because we can't even like start changing our brain or rewiring the brain when our body is like running on stress hormones and undernourished. But it's like actually like the like even with you, the majority of the recovery like stuff we did was regards to your like the mindset and mental health and everything, right? And this is where you made the most progress, and recovery is not just about like eating whatever. And very often
Correct.
like the mental stuff that comes up, like this is like the stuff that needs to be dealt with in order to like truly make the progress and achieve the recovery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
Mhm.
Totally.
Mhm. And also maybe now, like we have talked about your recovery a little bit and how it was like for you. but also like what is the progress now that you feel you have made so far?
Like I said, I think it's more of the mental and emotional side of the recovery. Maybe because I'm super pregnant right now. It's more of being able to deal with. I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I still get those negative thoughts. It's just that I have the tools to deal with them better. Uh, like I said, I don't know. Maybe I might need another session after giving birth. I have told you that numerous of times because I know myself, and I know that it's just me being more aware of my thought process and how me gaining this baby weight, how it's making me feel, being in touch with how I feel, and remembering the values that we have set during our sessions. If it's aligned with what I truly value, the morals that I want to set um, my life upon. So those are the things that is still really helping me a lot at this time in my journey to healing.
Yeah, and what about your previous behaviors like binge eating and stuff like that? Like how has that changed?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't crave too many things at the moment. I think it's because I eat what I want to eat. I eat rice every day. I'm Asian. We love rice. I eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's totally cool. I remember I told you that, oh my gosh, I had like after eating rice, I was craving for a Magnum ice cream bar, and I ate the whole thing, and I was quite happy because I just enjoyed it. Like I just sincerely enjoyed it, and I moved on with my life. It wasn't such a, oh my gosh, like I need to, I'm gonna eat breakfast after this. I'm not gonna eat sweets for a whole week. There was none of those things any longer. It was just me genuinely enjoying the moment and enjoying the ice cream. I felt that free before. I know it's such a small thing, but it was so liberating.
And one of the things people, worry about so much that like they think about food 24/7, like all the time, and they worry that this is how it will be for the rest of their lives, and they're gonna always obsess about food and have it like a first priority on their mind. So how is that for you now? Like in terms of the what are you focusing on daily, and how it was before and how it is now?
Well, like I said before, after my third pregnancy with my fourth baby, that's when I was on HCG. I was on 500 calorie a day diet. I was injecting hormones. I was on intermittent fasting. I was running for an hour, biking for an hour. So this was just less than 2 years ago because my youngest boy is turning 2 years, 2 years old next month. So coming from that to now is such a big leap because at that time, I was starving I was again going back to that obsessive thought, and I was weighing myself practically maybe twice a day, or every time I ate something I would weigh myself immediately. And I haven't seen a scale since we started our session, which was end of last year. So and even when I visit my OB, because I'm pregnant, I would really ask her, is it really necessary to check my weight? But of course, because I'm pregnant, I have to check my weight. Um, it's just different because now I can focus on other things, on life, on my kids, on enjoying food, on playing with them. I'm not so consumed with how I look or how this food is making me feel. I eat, I enjoy my food, and I move on with my life. If I'm sleepy after I eat, I'm gonna sleep. It's not like I need to burn what I ate kind of thing.
And I remember like one thing we also talked about that like now you have this like beautiful baby like growing inside of you, and when you give birth and everything, like as a mother, it's almost like you are like so grateful that now you have a such a like a different and a healthy perspective and something you can like give her as well, right?
This is, I think, I wrote about it in an article, and I was saying the best because this is going to be my first. I have four boys, so this is our only girl, and the best gift I could give my daughter is my healing and my recovery. Like, I don't, of course, it goes for my other children, my four boys, but I think it's even more so for the girl, because girls are more affected by the objectification, by wanting to look a certain way and all that stuff. So I'm just glad that I was able to do this journey before giving birth to my daughter, because it's something that I can truly pass on to her, something that is priceless and valuable, something that, will set her up in such a way where she will be, happy with her body.
And also talking about the generational like legacy we give, right? Like for example, like our parents, and they learned it from somewhere. It's like the program that runs through generations, and it's nobody's fault. But it's like when we like suffer because of it, then we become aware of why we suffer, and we finally reach the recovery. Then it's kind of like the purpose of your recovery is gonna
Right.
be given to the other generations as well, that
Exactly.
come like after you. So it's like even bigger than just your recovery.
Exactly. So the recovery of the next generation.
Yes.
You know, my daughter's children. So yeah, I'm quite happy that I was able to do this now
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
my.
Hmm. Yeah. So like maybe like yeah, like ending at this very happy note, and like do you have any last words for the viewers?
I think it's really just to honor your journey. Like I said, I started just asking the right questions, searching. Do not feel, if you know that something is not right, it probably isn't. So um don't stop learning, continue to ask questions, be very intentional with your healing and your recovery. It's a never ending process, but at least now there's people like Elisa who can guide us, through it all. You need to, if you need help, ask for it, because it's out there. And yeah, just keep on keeping on, and be intentional, be aware, and fight for the life that you want to have.
Yeah, thank you so much for this, and thank you for the interview. And I know a lot of people will hear it, and it's gonna be like so motivational for them. And so yeah, like even now, I hope with this interview, and I know with your followers as well, like you are making such an impact. It's kind of like gonna spread so
Yeah,
fast.
hope so. I mean, that's the whole point. I remember
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm doing this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you again, and thanks everybody for watching, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.